Welcome to GulfChats, where stories of the Gulf come alive. From daring voyages to the dynamic history that shaped our coastal world, we bring you first-hand accounts, expert insights, and the timeless tales of sailors, explorers, and maritime pioneers. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Again, my name is Gabe Berault. Miss Karen kind of gave a great introduction. I'm going to be giving a presentation here, kind of talking about growing up a little bit as the son of a bar pilot. I've heard some people talk about with the presentation, I've had some questions about it, saying, is this a presentation about ship pilots, right? Like a history of ship pilots and stuff like that. And that's not exactly. I'll be mentioning some things about ship pilots, but this is really kind of a personal presentation about me growing up and some stories about, my dad and things he told me growing up. And kind of how it shaped how I came to work in a museum in the first place. So we'll get started here. Let me hit the present button. Okay. So I figured we'd start at the beginning, right? So early life. So we're from Slidell, Louisiana, originally. My family is. My dad's born there, raised there. So I have a pretty good memory of it. It wasn't until I was about 5 to 6 years old that we came over to Mobile. But I do have a lot of memories of growing up there. A big part of that, was actually my dad being at sea during that time. During things like Iraqi freedom, after he went to Kings Point, he served right on ships and went all around the world, and was really amazing was that he would tell me a lot of these stories from his time on ships about troops, history, all that kind of stuff that really had an impact, I think, on the future for me. Again, working in a museum. So again, we moved, I could be wrong about this, Dad, but I think it was 2006 we came to Mobile, or 2007? Okay, 2006, that's right. We came to Mobile here as an apprentice pilot. My dad began training, and eventually, as he is now, is a ship pilot here on Mobile River in Mobile Bay. So again, that's a little bit about early life here. Some of these pictures you can see here, a lot of them, we've always been around the water, right? So as a ship pilot, he likely is going to take his family right to places along the water a good bit. So a lot of these pictures you'll see are just that. So up top here you can see that's a younger me. I was about maybe 14. And then below that you can see is a picture of my grandparents, so his parents, as well as my younger brothers and me. A couple more pictures growing up. So a couple of these are going to be along the water. This one in the middle, that's my younger brother, Joe. My dad at the time, he had a flatboat, and we would take this out all the time. He loved taking us out on the boat, doing things like fishing trips. And you can see here, I'm pretty sure I caught this fish, and he was more excited about it than I was. On this side here, this was it the Nina? I think it was the Nina or the Pinta. But the ships that come through here for things like tours and stuff like that, I loved anything history, right? Even as a kid, I loved that stuff. So I love this picture here. Got my brother and my 2 cousins. One of my cousins is here today, so thank you for making it. So little history there. So I'll go over a couple of stories about growing up that relate to my dad being a bar pilot and experiences I probably wouldn't have had if he wasn't a bar pilot, right? So one thing that it's a really cool story that I always remember is, even being a kid, was going aboard the USS Farragut was the ship. A Navy vessel, right, that would come into Mobile River. What's really cool, and something I would love to tell my friends when I'd get to school and stuff like that, is especially ones when we talked about military history and Navy ships, Army. We love that kind of stuff as young boys, right? And I would say, that Navy ship that just came in, my dad was on that, and I got to go on it. So I love that stuff. So yeah, me and my younger brother Joe here, we got to go aboard it, and I remember very clearly going on this vessel because I think a couple days prior to that, I had watched the Star Wars movies, and when I boarded this ship, it looked exactly like the inside of a destroyer, like from Star Wars, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen. So I love that story, and again, doing things like that as a young boy really sort of inspired a lot of the things I do today. So this is kind of a cool story. So when I was I'd say I was about maybe 14 to 15 here, I had the opportunity to go out on a ship with my dad. It's another story that I remember very vividly, being able to take the ship out into the Gulf, and it was a really cool experience. I bet my dad was very nervous. I was really excited. He was nervous, but we took the ship out right here, actually. So I love this picture because at the time, right, I was only 14, 15. I didn't think I'd be working at the Maritime Museum, but you can see that background there. That is the museum right out there. So it's kind of a cool little picture. In the window, you can actually see, right, a tugboat. So we boarded that tugboat. It took us onto the vessel, and then we took it out into the Gulf. I just remember the experience, getting to see different cultures aboard the ship, a crew from the Philippines and like a Russian captain. It was interesting to me, and I loved that kind of stuff. So we took it out, and probably the most memorable experience was climbing down the ship ladder, right? It was the middle of the night, it was freezing cold, the waves were going, and I'm excited, actually. I'm climbing down the ladder, and I look up, and my dad is panicking, for good reason, I guess. But anyway, experiences like that, again, I'm really happy I was able to do with my dad. This is a bit different. This is another experience I had with my dad. It's not necessarily related to, right, ship pilots or anything, but it was an experience that I'd say changed my life. Around 2017, we went on a mission trip to Costa Rica, and it was the first time I had been out of the country. I had interacted with people from out of the country, but first time leaving the country and seeing something like this, it was very different for me. A big part of the trip was my dad wanting me to kind of see different parts of the world. And again, I was always very much into things like history and stories, and to see something like this was a dream for me. I was really excited, but it wasn't I'd say like a normal trip. It was very interesting. So we basically went to Costa Rica, and we were helping, basically there's an indigenous population there called the Quebecer people, and they have a reservation in the mountains. And we camped out in the jungle of Costa Rica for a couple days, as well as helped out with the hostel very near there. It's in a place called Turrialba, Costa Rica. And it was such an amazing experience. Again, it was my first time out of the country. It really influenced things like my worldview, and seeing how different people live. It was a life-changing moment for me. So it's a picture of me and my dad there. We were visiting one of the Quebecer people in his home. So I'll show you a couple more images of that. So some of the pictures are a little bit blurry. I tried to fix them, unfortunately. Some of them are just going to be a little blurry, but I'll point out a couple of them to you. This one here was a school we went to, and I didn't think that there would be schools on this reservation, but it was very interesting getting to see, people who were very, had never been introduced to things like technology and stuff like that. We went to this place, and getting to interact with them, even if we couldn't speak with them normally, it was really, really interesting for me, and I loved every minute of it. You can see it says Escuela, like a welcome to school, but the name of the city actually is interesting because it's not a Spanish word. It's Secuaditza is the name of it. It's just a weird word, but it's actually, they have a native language. The Quebecer language is what it's called. And it was really cool getting to see things like that. You can see another picture here is one of the houses that we were helping with. We were touring those, a couple people in the image there. And then this bottom image right here is the hostel that we stayed at. The first night we were there, I was super excited. And then I woke up in the morning and my uncle who was with us was stung by a scorpion. And that was pretty shocking. I was like, I've really arrived somewhere different, right? So anyway, things like that. Again, not really related to the bar pilot thing. It's a bit of a different story, but things like this, whether it be riding the ships, getting to go aboard the Navy ship, and then going to different countries like this, definitely shaped, again, my worldview and how I came to work, I'd say, in a museum in the first place. So a bit about my interests, right, in history. I had a good question come up before the presentation started, and I think this is probably a good time to mention it, and it was, why didn't I become a ship pilot myself? And I think it's a common culture thing among many pilots in different areas that basically their children will follow suit, particularly their sons. And my dad raised me a little bit differently, I'd say. I didn't necessarily, it's not that I didn't have an interest in becoming a pilot. I very well could have, I think, but he very much raised me and my brothers to kind of find our own interests, find our own path. And for me, that path was history and literature. I really enjoyed that stuff in school. And again, very different than things like a bar pilot, but I appreciate that because, again, I wouldn't have found these interests, I feel like, truly as a career if I didn't, with that freedom, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So just a little bit about that. But ever since I was young, things like World War II history for me has just been something I've loved since I was a kid. Very interested in. Freshman year of high school, I used to not read at all, and then I began reading very heavily into historical books. And then as I got older, right, these things began to interest me more and more. Again, a little bit about my past there, a bit before the museum itself. And so in this part of the presentation, I'd like to get into a bit of the museum work side of things. So how did I come to work in a maritime museum? So we'll go back a little bit. My freshman year of college, right, was interrupted with COVID going on, right? It was a big thing at the time, and we weren't really in school in person. And I needed something to do, right? Because I didn't want to sit at home all day and just do online classes. So I found the Maritime Museum. I figured, I do like museums. My favorite museum personally, the World War II Museum in New Orleans, one of my favorite places on earth, really. I mean, I could spend days there. And so I thought of the Maritime Museum here in Mobile. So I came to volunteer, and very quickly I kind of felt like I found my place and my interests. My first day here, it was interesting. Miss Karen was mentioning earlier about my dad honking the horn. Well, on my first tour, actually, giving a tour to guests of the museum, we walked up onto the 5th floor of the museum, and I saw a ship coming by. Sure enough, my dad was on that ship. And he honked the horn, and I saw the kids, right, and the family, their faces light up. They were so excited, and to me, it was like, okay, this is cool. This is, for young kids especially, but for any audience, I'd say. Maritime museums, especially one like this, right along Mobile River, is such an amazing place to be able to learn things and see things for the first time. And I kind of knew right then that education was going to be kind of my path, I felt like. Doing education, especially with exhibit work. So a little bit about that. In summer of 2020 is when I started volunteering here. It was a different time at the museum. With COVID regulations, we only did tours in the museum. It wasn't a normal museum experience where you pay admission, you walk in, and you go through the floors, and then you make your way out before closing time, right? This was an hour and a half specific tour, kind of on the clock. So at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, noon, up until closing time. So you'd have to go on the tour, and that was that. in only about 2 days of volunteering, I was giving tours, which was pretty scary for me. I was terrified of things like public speaking. Still am, still a little bit, but you know, it was a really cool experience for me to do, and it really helps me with my public speaking abilities to give tours to these people. And I kind of had to learn as I went along, but I really enjoyed it. I began to interact with some of the exhibits here that are so unique and really cool. I'll point out a couple of them here to you. Things I love interacting with, especially young people, about. This exhibit right here is called Ocean Planet. If anybody has been through the museum, you've probably seen both of these exhibits before, but one of my favorites, Ocean Planet, which sits here, I'm able to do science presentations for young people and you know, all audiences again. And it's really cool. We can fit a lot of people in that room, and being able to tie in my dad's work along the river to show some of those data sets is really interesting. There's one in particular where we can take a look at things like canals across the world, places like the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, and being able to say, hey, I have pictures that my dad took of that area and show it to them. It really reinvigorates, you know, their ideas about it, right? Because it's one thing to just hear about it, but to see it in person, my dad's career definitely helps with that. And again, those stories I'm able to tell people are very beneficial to the youth. This bottom picture here, you can see some school kids. This is an exhibit called Beneath the Bay here at the museum, and it's all about shipwrecks within Mobile Bay. And I love talking about, again, history, Civil War history, so we're able to talk about some of those shipwrecks there. And what's cool about it is it shows the ship channel within Mobile Bay. So I love talking about, again, my dad going through that channel and what he can see via the pictures that he takes on that route. And so it really, again, helps to show some of these young people, you know, what's out there basically along Mobile Bay. And then I kind of put at the bottom here, my favorite thing clearly about being at the museum is seeing that spark within people, right? Because it's something I think only an exhibit really can do in museums. It's one thing when you go, right, and you're learning about, let's say, maritime history, because we're a maritime museum, and you're reading in a book about something. It can be kind of dry, right? But an exhibit is going to completely change that. And no matter how old you are, you can take something away from that is going to be different each time you do it. And that's sort of one thing I've loved about working with Ms. Karen on some of these new projects is bringing that to life. Again, being able to tell that perspective from my dad's point of view in a maritime museum is very beneficial to making these exhibits. Here's a cool little picture I wanted to show. So the one right here, this is me and my grandparents. This is when I just started as a volunteer. So like the week after I started volunteering, this is us up on deck 5 again, where you can watch the ships go by. I look a bit younger here, and then here I definitely look a little bit aged. But yeah, so that's my mom's brother and his family, and they also came to the museum. It's in the same spot on deck 5, but I thought it was a cool little comparison picture. Again, I've been doing these tours for so long, and it's very enjoyable for me to show people this kind of stuff for the first time. All right, this is going to be the last slide. I named this one Looking Towards the Future. While I'm not a ship pilot myself, I think one of the reasons for me giving this presentation is that, again, the stories my dad tells me has really benefited my museum work. And through the work I have done and the projects still to come, things like the Delta Mosaic exhibit we have coming, we have a Jimmy Buffett exhibit, which we're really excited about. And I'm also very excited about being the exhibit developer for the Dauphin Island Deep Sea Fish and Rodeo exhibit. It's going to be really fun for me, and to learn some of these things and these projects. I have a lot of great guidance here, so I thank them for that. And being able to take these perspectives from my dad. This is a cool picture of him. There's been a lot of talk about the SS United States, and he was one of the pilots that actually brought it into Mobile Bay. So that's him right there on the deck. It's kind of funny, when he was bringing it in, I think I was at work, and he FaceTimed me. And he knows how much I love history and stuff, and he's walking aboard the deck like, look where I am. And I'm like, you're very lucky. But yeah, so stories like that, again, I can tell people with the museum. And again, through the works, through the projects still to come, his career assists me in bringing maritime education to life here. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. Yeah, that's a little bit about that and how that influences me. All right, and that's my presentation, y'all. Thank you. I'll use this time now for however long y'all would like. I'll do a little Q&A. I'll answer some questions if y'all have any. Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer anything y'all have. Yes, Mr. Jeremy.
How much time do you spend doing tours and stuff versus researching? How's that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So before, I primarily did mainly tours, especially when I was a part-time employee here. It was mainly education, but I've been able to really expand a bit in the past year, I'd say, in doing things like technical work. Stuart Hood over here, he's kind of like, I'm kind of like his apprentice, I like to think. Like, I learn everything from him, the technical side of things here at the museum. So I've done a lot of cool exhibit work with him, getting to build things, fix things, all kinds of stuff, and I really enjoy that part. But I'm very lucky as well to still be able to do education here and give tours and whatnot, help out the education department. So yeah, I kind of try to balance it between different things here at the museum, but yeah, I try and do it all. So. Yes, ma'am.
What all does a ship pilot do?
Ship pilot, yeah, that's a good question. So my dad would be a better person to answer what a ship pilot does. I can give a somewhat of an answer about it. But ship pilots, right, are required, unlike a ship captain, which most people will think of when a ship is maneuvering, right? The captain is aboard the ship, they're in control of it. But when a ship is coming into harbor, right, it's coming into a port, that captain does not know the waters that they're entering necessarily. So when you take a look at Mobile Bay and you see, right, that entrance between Fort Morgan, let's say, and then over in Dauphin Island, and then all the way through the bay, it's going to be at different depths, there's going to be things to watch out for, and the captain does not know any of that. So that's what a pilot is trained over years to do, basically. And then, again, depending on the port itself, probably going to have more pilots than others. But yeah, is that a pretty good description? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Did your father's office hours have any impact on your decision to moral judgment?
Yes. So I definitely would see that. I like being able to, sleep in some days, I'd say, being a pilot definitely is you're on call. When you're on your work week, you can be on call at any moment. It can be the middle of the night, early morning, things going on. You may have plans that day, and none of that will have to come into account because you have to go to work. You have to be on call at all times. So I'd say yes. But it is more, I'd say, my interest in history and stuff like that is primarily why. But yeah, it's a good question. Mr. Watt? Yeah.
I got here a little late, maybe you already said this, but have you ever ridden with your dad on the ship?
I did, yes. So I briefly covered it, but I'll go back to that one picture right here. So yeah, right there, that was the only time actually I went on a ship with my dad, but I still remember it pretty vividly. I was about, again, 14 to 15 years old at the time, and yeah, it was a really cool experience, being able to do that. Something I'd love to do again, but yeah, so I have before.
I got to go with your dad one time.
He told me.
So we all get a trip? No.
Yeah. We're all gonna go on board. Okay, in the next ship, we're all gonna go. Okay, we're all apprentice pilots. But yeah. Well, yes.
Would your dad be willing to give us a quick synopsis of his work?
I think so. Dad, would you be willing to do that? Yeah, I'll take Mr. Jeremy's question and then I'll let my dad come up and talk quickly about it. Hey.
What makes the decisions on the exhibits that y'all are doing now? 'Cause I think the exhibits that y'all are doing are really awesome.
Yeah.
Some of those ones that, like, you're talking about, I didn't know about the Dolphin Owl radio and just the Jimmy Buffett and just some of them, I just think they're really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool flavor.
Yeah, definitely. We have a great staff here. People like Miss Karen, Mr. Stu over here, Bain Dunaway with the museum. A lot of people, we all work together, which is a pretty cool thing about it. And we come up with these ideas together. And Miss Karen is a great director in making sure our voices are heard on exhibits. And that's something I really appreciate about it. But yes, it's I'd say she calls the shots, but we all have our input, and it's all kind of a group project, I'd say. Any other questions? All right, I'm actually going to let my dad, the father, the ship pilot, come up and talk a little bit about his work. But again, I appreciate y'all and your questions. Thank you.
Hey, great job, Gabe. Hey, buddy, good job. That was, gosh, I know, hey, Glenn, I know you all with your own kids, a great moment in life is to see your son or your daughter kind of, in a way, come into their own. And for me, sitting over there in that chair was that moment where, like, wow, this guy, if you don't mind me saying it, Gabe, back in 8th grade at St. Ignatius, won, I'm gonna put in air quotes, the most shy award, which we were like, oh my God, and here he is speaking in front of a group of people. I mean, I don't know, I'm just boiled over, to be honest with you. I'm proud of him, and as he said, while I love my job, I want him and his brothers and anyone for that matter to kind of follow their instincts. And so it was never a design to say, hey, I want a clone of me. I just want you to do what you love. And if you find something, which is so awesome that there's this tangent that he's discovered in the maritime, and God, what a great view of the river that is. And I'm still, even though I was on it last night at midnight, just like, wow, this is awesome. And the museum's doing such great work, and I'm just so proud of Gabe. So I think there was a question about what we do, and so Gabe actually gave a perfect canned answer, to be honest with you, about what pilots do. And I've been doing it for 16 years. And we moved over here to Mobile with the hopes and desires that this would be an opportunity. I went to the Merchant Marine Academy, graduated in '96. As Gabe said, I sailed during Iraq. I've got some graduates here. In fact, I want to say we've got 2 sons of pilots in the room, if not more, in the room today. So 3. It's kind of neat, how tangential this can be. And anyway, we're just blessed to be in Mobile, Alabama, and have this great job. And I work a week on, a week off. I have 13 other pilot partners who we all work together in bringing the ships in and out of here. We brought the United States in the other day. That was an exciting thing. To be honest with you, I really didn't want to do it. It was too much visibility. And sure enough, as we were out there on the bridge wing, there were drones flying around us and being photographed. I mean, I don't know, just like, gosh, if I wreck this thing into Gulf Quest, I mean, will they appreciate that, So it went smoothly, thank goodness. And go ahead, Glenn. So what we did, we had 3 pilots involved, and I don't want to steal Gabe's thunder. This is really about Gabe, but to tell you a little bit about United States, Glenn, it really neat. She came from Philadelphia, as you know, and she'll be eventually sunk off of Okaloosa County in Florida. But Mars, Modern Recycling, I believe is the name of it, got the contract to kind of make her ready to sink. And so what we do in any tow, dead ship tow is what we call it when we move a vessel that has no power. is we put a pilot on the towing tug, and we put most of the time 2 pilots on the towed vessel. And so in this particular case, the first pilot covered the outer bar channel. We had a lot of wind that day, so he was hard at work making sure the ship didn't go and hit Little Sand Island, or Sand Island Lighthouse, or Fort Morgan, Mobile Point. And then I took over at Middle Bay Light and piloted her to the dock here. And so, yeah, that went really smooth, but it's fun. It's fun to be part of history, SS United States, and Gabe's love of history. Like I said, I can't say enough how proud I am of him and what he's doing here at the Maritime Museum. And thank you all for coming out to see Gabe. And I learned a lot just sitting there listening to him. And so anyway, Karen, is there anything else any other questions? Any other questions? Bar pilot related or Gabe related? Go ahead.
Where do you usually pick up? Where do you board your ships at?
So 8 miles south of Fort Morgan is the general anchorage, where like today there's probably 4 or 5 vessels, coal ships, tankers that are waiting for an open berth. And we leave out of Dauphin Island. In fact, Gabe, that picture he had with my parents was us. We took him out on the pilot boat ride to watch me disembark a ship. And so we leave out of Dauphin Island, and we go out about 8 miles out there. Between the anchorage and the ship channel is where we'll board the ship, and then take over the command of the ship. We'll take over from the captain. It's always the captain's ship, and he always has the ability to take over back from us. But we take over navigational control, is I guess the best way to put it. And actually Gabe said it much better than I could say. Basically just kind of guiding the ship for them to get it safely to the berth. But go ahead.
Can you explain your boarding process from get on these ships?
Yeah, so we always want to make, if we can, a lee, get on the lee side of the vessel. So the windward side and the leeward side. So we have the vessels turn in a way where they kind of get the ladder that we're going to climb up in protected waters out of the wind and the swell and the waves. And then the pilot boat comes alongside, and then there's a rope ladder. Some people call it a Jacob's ladder. In this case, a pilot ladder has spreader bars that kind of stabilize it alongside the ship. And so they'll come alongside while the vessel's moving, and then we'll make the transition from going from the pilot boat up the ladder, and then eventually up to the bridge where we have an exchange with the captain, and then we take over the navigational control of the ship at that point until we get to the berth.
This happens no matter how bad the waves are?
No, we actually have cutoffs. So I would love to tell you that we'll do anything, but we're not that silly, I mean, usually if it gets above 10 feet of a sea state, it becomes too risky to board because the vessel's typically not moving that much, but the pilot boat is. And so a lot of times the pilot boat can get hung up on the ladder and it could break the ladder, or we could fall off. And in fact, every year there's at least 1 or 2 pilot deaths because of this transition. And it's an unfortunate part of our job, but it's the risk we take to do it, I guess you'd say. Anyway.
Very good presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Thank you. I really love having the fellow pilot family in the room, and fellow Kings Pointers in the room. And go ahead, Jeremy. Yes. So English is the language spoken aboard all maritime vessels. So if a ship, let's say with Greek captain and Greek crew, pulls into Shanghai, the Shanghai pilot will actually be speaking English to the Greek officers. And so we kind of won in that way. And if you were to say, do they speak English well? They speak English well in the commands of the ship. So they're very well versed in what's an appropriate, like what's the right commands, port and starboard, or left 20, or hard to port, things like that. They know how to say these things very well. Now, if you were to ask them, I'll tell you a funny story, Gabe. One time I was on a Chinese ship, and I asked the captain what he thought of, I don't know how we got in this conversation. This was a particularly nice Chinese captain. And we were talking history, Gabe. And I said, we got to talk politics, which is, as you know, a very dangerous thing to talk about. But okay, he seemed really open to talk. And I said, what did you think of that tank man in Tiananmen Square, you know? And he said, well, I know Tiananmen Square. What are you talking about, tank man? And I said, well, you remember the protests and the people, and he didn't know about it. Yeah, he had no idea that even happened. So I pulled up my iPhone, a picture of the guy standing in front of the tank, and he looked at me like incredulous, like, this really happened? Oh yeah, it happened, Cap. So to give you an idea of the world we live in, you know, and how even in this day and age, you know, you can meet someone who has no idea in their own country what has taken place. It's pretty wild. But anyway, again, thank you guys. I don't want to take any more, but I just loved hearing it, and I'm so proud of them. And thank y'all for listening to Gabe. And come back to the museum more often. And golly, I'm just so proud, Miss Karen. Thank you. I say Miss Karen because Gabe calls you Miss Karen. But thank you, Karen, for doing such an awesome job, and the exhibits to come, and the Delta, and Jimmy Buffett. Gosh, it's just like the sky's the limit for this place. We're so excited. So thanks again.